Greetings all and welcome to Spooky or Nah. In today's video, we're going to be looking at some scary TikToks. Something a little bit chill, it'll be fun, just sit back, relax and enjoy the video. If you don't, I'll be very upset. If you're new to the channel and you want to see more spooky videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell notification so that way YouTube's going to let you know when I post a new video, which is something that you'll want to know. Trust me, you need to know. So without further ado, let's get into it.
This is why you should always change your locks. In 2017, a college girl woke up from a nightmare drenched in sweat and decided to rinse off before going back to sleep. She propped her phone on a shelf, turned on some music, and then hopped in the shower. A few minutes later, she reaches for her phone to change the song, but stops suddenly. Reflected on her phone's screen was a person standing in the middle of her bathroom facing the shower. She somehow kept her composure, turned the water to scalding hot, and then ripped open the curtain and sprayed the intruder in the face. As they howled in pain, she ran past them to her kitchen to get her butcher's knife. In a panic, she can't find her knife, so she just runs out of the apartment and calls the police. The police go in and come out with a crazy-looking woman in handcuffs. One of the officers comes over to the girl and says she used to live here and she had copies of your keys. Then he pauses and looks down and brings up a clear evidence bag that contained her butcher's knife, and he says, "Looks like she wanted her apartment back."
There's something.
That's super creepy. I love the real life stuff like that. Obviously that's terrifying for the woman, but that is creepy as. I don't know if that's real because it's a TikTok, he could be making it up, but it sounds real. I love it. I love it in a good way, not a bad way. I don't love that it happened. You get what I mean.
Something terrifying going on at Chuck E. Cheese right now, and I'm gonna explain it to you. So we all know about the game Five Nights at Freddy's, right? It's a game based around a restaurant that's pretty much like a Chuck E. Cheese where the animatronics come to life and wreak havoc on all the guests there. But what if I told you this was possibly happening in real life right now? Just 2 days ago, 5 children have gone missing inside of a Chuck E. Cheese, and the parents reported a weird smell from the inside of the building. And then just like Five Nights at Freddy's, someone that worked the late night shift actually got killed after hours. Now these are all pretty weird, but here's the kicker right here. Check out this headline. Night shift workers from Chuck E. Cheese claim strange movement from animatronics post hours. So I don't know, what do you think about this? Do you think it's real? Do you think it's fake? And I mean, with 2020 and everything going on, like, I wouldn't be shocked if it was real.
I think that is sad because of the missing children, sad because someone died after hours, but I do not think that the animatronics are alive. Things glitch. You know, there could be little power surges because their power's probably left on even if they're switched off on the actual animatronic. So the robot could just move, you know what I mean? It could be, if the arm's up here, it could be completely off, no power or anything, and it might just drop because of the gears or something, you know? Like, I don't know, I think, yeah, it's a little bit, yeah.
Curdling facts that you wish you never knew, part 1.
Wait, blood-curdling facts you wish, this guy could be the new Chills.
In creating the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland, they couldn't create skeletons that looked realistic enough, so they used real human skeletons. Since then, they've removed all but one. Ducks sometimes become cannibals due to boredom, meaning they kill and eat each other. This behavior begins as early as 4 weeks old. Crocodiles are capable of galloping, similar to a horse. Luckily, alligators cannot. And while we're at it,
You say luckily alligators cannot. In Australia, we have crocodiles. Big freaking crocodiles. Not this big, that's not very big, but like, they get big. Galloping crocodiles? I always thought that I could outrun a crocodile if I, you know, ever got chased by one. But now I'm not so sure, so I'm moving to Argentina.
tarantulas can swim. It's extremely common after you die that there will be extreme gas buildup and you will burp after death. And sometimes dead bodies can even sit up on their own. Also, if a pregnant woman dies, the gas buildup in her body can actually forcefully push a baby out. In other words, a post-mortem baby bazooka.
A post-mortem baby bazooka? Look at the baby Oh, sorry, that really got me. I shouldn't be laughing at that. That's pretty sick. But he said a post-mortem baby bazooka. Look how it's flying.
Hearing is the last bodily function to go after one dies, so it's very possible that the last thing you ever hear is the paramedic calling off your CPR.
This is why you should never stay in sketchy motels. In 2005, a young woman on a solo road trip across the country decided to stop for the night. The first place she sees is the Mountaintop Motel. It looked pretty cheap, but she was tired, so she said good enough. The check-in guy eyed her up and down very uncomfortably and then asked her if she was traveling alone. She ignores the question, pays for her room, and then walks away with the key. When she gets inside her room and sees there are literally cockroaches in her bed, she says nope and decides to sleep in her car in the parking lot. Around 3 a.m., she wakes up to see the check-in guy using his own keys to get into the motel room she was supposed to be in. A few minutes later, he storms out and slams the door and starts walking towards her car. Terrified, she hides under her blanket as the man tries to open her car doors but can't and walks away. She speeds off and calls her friend and asks her to look up the address of Mountaintop Motel so she can give it to police. Her friend's quiet for a second and then just says, "The Mountaintop Motel closed a week ago." If someone offers you this,
Creepy! Creepy!
walk away. In 2016, a man was staying at his friend's cabin in the woods when he decided to go for an evening stroll.
As soon as you hear cabin in the woods, you know this is about to get real.
A ways down the trail, he hears someone call out from behind his neighbor's house. He looks up and he sees this skinny guy pop out from behind the building who starts waving frantically at him to come over. Worried this guy could be in trouble, the man takes off running to assist, but when he gets close enough, the neighbor just offers him a fistful of Slim Jims and starts talking about how much he hates his wife. Sensing there was something wrong with this guy, he says no thank you to the Slim Jims and walks away. The next day, the man calls
What's a Slim Jim? Is it like a firecracker? Or do you eat it? For I don't know if this video is American, but wherever they sell Slim Jims, can you guys please let me know what they are? I know that's not scary or anything. I mean, the story's scary, but Slim Jims aren't. I just want to know what they are because I'm super curious. Thank you.
His friend who owned the cabin to ask him what the deal was with his weirdo neighbor. There was silence on the phone, and then his friend just says, "I don't have any neighbors." The police are called, and it turns out his neighbor was really some lunatic who had recently killed his wife and had been hiding out in the abandoned cabin next door. This is why you always say yes to Tandoori Chicken. In 2012, a high school tutor and her student stayed up so late one night studying that by the time they were done, the buses had stopped running. Without another way home, the student asked if he could stay the night at her place. Reluctantly, she agreed. When they got back to the apartment, she fell asleep on her bed and he fell asleep on a blanket next to her bed on the ground. A few hours later, she wakes up to the boy standing awkwardly in the middle of the room with a very strange look on his face. She asks him, "What's wrong?" He looks at her and says, "I'm really hungry. Let's go get some tandoori chicken." Confused, she says, "It's 2 a.m. Just get a snack in the cupboard." And he grabs her by the arm and he says, "No, we are getting tandoori chicken right now." And he yanks her from the bed. Feeling totally caught off guard by this whole situation, she goes into the hall with the boy, and as soon as the door shuts behind them, she can tell that he is terrified. He looks at her and just says, "I'm not actually hungry. When I woke up, there was someone under your bed." This is why you...
That's sick! I mean, I keep reacting to these like they're cool. I'm not saying that this is funny or it's cool. That's not what I'm saying. The stories are terrifying and that would be absolutely terrifying. I'm just saying, like, these stories are giving me chills. This is really interesting. Wow. I love those twists in those stories. That is such a good twist because you're thinking like, nope, this kid's the bad guy. He's like full psycho. It's like, no, I'm not really hungry. There's someone under your bed. That's so cool.
You should always trust your gut. In the early 1970s, a college student decided to hitchhike his way home after class. A car pulls up, a man offers him a ride, and he climbs in. As soon as the car started moving, the student felt totally uneasy, like something was wrong but he couldn't quite place it. Without saying anything, he waited till the next time they slowed down and he flung the door open and ran away. 2 years later, he's flicking through TV channels when he comes across this special interview with a death row inmate. And it's just the audio recording, so he hears the interviewer ask the inmate, "Why did you remove all the door handles inside of your car?" The man just goes, "Well, the first time I tried to kill someone, I picked up a college hitchhiker who got smart at some point and jumped out of my car. So, lesson learned, remove all the door handles." When they showed his picture, the student knew immediately that he was supposed to be the first victim of John Wayne Gacy, aka the Killer Clown, who had killed over 30 men and boys in his clown room and stuffed them into his basement. This is
Wow. Yeah, if you're not familiar with that guy, the Killer Clown, absolute wacko serial killer. Might do a video on him one day. Yeah, dressed up as a clown, super creepy. I don't really like you know, I mean, I don't mind clowns. I mean, you know, circus and stuff like that. But as soon as they're like demonized and that, like, it just freaks me out. Obviously, there's just something inherently spooky about creepy clowns. That guy was a pretty full-on serial killer. So that college student was very lucky. But don't know if that's a true story, but sounds like it. Sounds pretty interesting.
Why you should always trust your gut. In the 1970s, a young couple decided to go for a late-night hike in the woods. A couple minutes into their walk, and the man remembers thinking something's not right. He tells his girlfriend, but they just decide to ignore it and keep going, until he steps on something that felt really soft, like it was alive. Before he has a chance to see what he stepped on, they hear all this rustling in the bushes next to them, and they bolt. Years later, that couple turns on the TV, and a death row inmate who's about to be executed is being interviewed. And they ask him, was there ever a time that you were almost caught red-handed? He responded, yes, one time. I was in the woods, and a couple walked through, and the man actually stepped on the body of a girl I had just killed. I was hiding in the bushes just a few feet away. They didn't see me. That couple had run into one of the worst serial killers of all time, Ted Bundy.
Wow. There you go. I've actually heard that story. I do believe that is true. I have heard that story multiple times. That is just super creepy. You could never know at the time that Ted Bundy is sitting there. Obviously, at the time, you know, Ted Bundy was getting away with these murders. So, but to see that years later on TV, that would be... that would give you chills.
Supposedly, this is what the fallen angel Lucifer looks like. And this is what the moon looked like on March 31st, 2020. I don't know about any of you guys, but this is scary, especially with everything going on in the world right now. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Obviously, cloud formations are a bit tricky. You could really put that down to it just being a random cloud formation that just happens to look like the old painting of Lucifer. But still pretty creepy, especially if you know that old painting of Lucifer with the arm across his face and whatever like that one there. Yeah, that'd be pretty creepy because you're like, wow, I know what that looks like. So that's spooky. That's spooky.
Cool.
Let this be a reminder that there really are monsters out there. In 2007, a woman living right near a prison in California got home late one night and went right to bed. Around midnight, she woke up to footsteps on her first floor, assumed it was her roommate, so she goes downstairs to say hi. She yells out to her roommate, who doesn't say anything, and then in walks this giant man who she doesn't recognize. She runs upstairs, jumps in her closet into the crawl space, and hides. As she's helplessly tucked away in this little crawl space, trying not to make any sound, all she hears is this giant man sprinting around her house, running into walls, flipping furniture, and screaming in frustration because he can't find her. Finally, after several hours, she slowly opens the crawl space back up, crawls out, and gets her phone off the nightstand and calls police. As she's telling the police her story, she describes the person who had broken in, and they stop her and say, "Ma'am, go back in the crawl space and stay there. We'll be there as soon as we can." It turned out a 6'11" convicted murderer had escaped the prison and was still on the loose.
Creepy. That's super creepy. That kind of reminds me of the movie Gerald's Game. If you haven't seen that on Netflix, it's a Stephen King novel adapted into a film. That last shot was actually a clip from the movie, or a still from the movie. But that's super creepy. It really reminds me of that. Could have been what Gerald's Game was based off. But yeah, that's super creepy. I would be absolutely terrified. That must have been a terrifying, really, really scary ordeal for that woman. So I hope she's okay. That's 100% real. I was there. It happened.
Scare easily? I wouldn't watch this video. In 2013, a mine explorer found this entrance to an abandoned mine and decided to go have a look around. He decides to film his experience and upload it to his YouTube channel, where he had uploaded hundreds of other videos of him exploring mines, but he never once references the paranormal or ghosts or anything like that until this video. As soon as he steps foot inside, he tells the camera that he has a really uneasy feeling about being there and wonders if he should even keep going, but he does. Everything seems pretty normal until he gets to a section in the mine where there's a bunch of chains hanging down from the ceiling. He hears something in the back of the tunnel, so he pulls his flashlight out and he shines it towards the back, and he sees a chain swinging, and it shouldn't be, because there's no draft and he's all alone, and you can tell he's scared by the way he starts talking. Although he's totally freaked out, he wants to know what's causing the chain to swing, so he goes farther and farther into the mine until he hears something. People whispering in every direction. He gets totally spooked and runs out. If you don't want to sleep tonight, watch the whole video.
So, there could be a logical explanation to this one, that being that there possibly was a draft. There are probably bats in that cave. That is just where bats live. There could be other rodent stuff like that could have absolutely brushed that chain, so you could write that one off. The whispering as well, same thing. The bats, obviously, sonar, high-pitched, stuff like that. Other mice, and obviously when you're in there and you're not making any sound, the sound obviously travels in waves, so it bounces off walls like crazy, especially down there in such a tight space as well. So that whispering could have very well been a bird, could have been a bat, could have been a rat. Who knows?
You should never open your door for strangers. In 2013, a woman let her dog out to use the bathroom one more time before bed. After only a few minutes, she starts hearing scratching on her door, which is typically the sound her dog makes when he's ready to come in. But it just seemed way too soon for him to be done being outside. So she decides to look through the peephole to make sure it really is her dog. But what she sees is terrifying. A deranged-looking man is right outside her door, staring intently at her door handle, waiting for it to turn open. As she's looking in horror, unable to do anything, he starts scratching at the door as hard as he can, never leaving his gaze from the door handle. She manages to stifle a scream, she backs away and realizes her dog is still outside. So she goes to the side window, but there's no sign of her dog, and so she goes back to the door to see if maybe the man's moved. He hasn't moved, his mouth is open, and he's staring directly at the peephole. Then he turns around and walks away. With the man gone, she discovers her dog unharmed, his leash had just been cut. But that means he had a knife.
Terrifying facts about...
Man, that is so scary. Ghosts and paranormal, aliens, whatever, it's scary, don't get me wrong, like it's spooky, but I mean, these real life stories, they just get me, because these things, I mean, have actually happened, could possibly have happened, maybe they haven't happened, but just stories in general, whether true or not, fiction or false, it's still super scary because these are real people and that can actually happen. I mean, that is just terrifying. Imagine looking through your peephole and there's a guy standing there, and then you go back and he's just got his mouth open, just staring at the peephole. Like, I would absolutely run away.
About the ocean, let's get into it. So we've explored... Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Let's talk about the ocean. So we've explored Just joking, the video's over. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Scary TikToks, pretty cool. Some potentially real-life scary stories. Some maybe not so much. But I hope you've enjoyed the video nonetheless, because I certainly enjoyed making it for you guys. Please, if you haven't already, check my socials out, my Discord, Instagram, and Twitter. Oh, and Twitch as well. I've got a Twitch too. They're down in the description, so please check those out. If you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed and you want to see more spooky videos like this, make sure you subscribe also, because that would be fantastic. Alright guys, as usual, until the next one, keep it spooky.